Hello again, everyone. My name is Germain. I'm host of INFOcus, People and Places. You've tuned in at a great time today because here in the MCTV studios, we are going to find out all about the mysterious yet wonderful world of healing known as acupuncture. We have a local acupuncturist with us, Gail Rex, and someone who has suffered a lot of pain and has entered the world of acupuncture as a way to alleviate that, and we're going to find out how it has worked for her. Jay Burton joins us as well.
Hi, Jerry.
Welcome, ladies.
Hi, Jerry.
Gail, you have been healing with acupuncture since 1995. How did you get into this world? Not the world in general, not, when you were born. No, not that. But how did you get into the world of acupuncture?
Well, I got into acupuncture because, like a lot of people, I was in pain as a teenager. I had a lot of joint pain. And I kept going to doctors, and they kept telling me it was growing pains and giving me more medicines, and that wouldn't work. They'd give me more. And I was incredibly frustrated. And then all through my teens, I was just doing the doctor route and being in a lot of pain. And then in my early 20s, I was spending some time in Santa Fe, where there were a lot of acupuncturists, and someone suggested I go to acupuncture for my joint pain. And it just completely changed my world. And so I started as a client, and then a few years later realized this was something I wanted to do with my life.
And is that common? Is that the common theme? People who have been in pain themselves have tried acupuncture and they love it so much they, quote unquote, bought the company.
That's the most,
Get their own franchise.
Most common way. There are people who start acupuncture school just because they've read about it and it seems interesting. I've met people who were in martial arts and they saw acupuncture as a natural extension of martial arts. So there's a few ways in.
Now that does appear to be a theme here. It's from the Far East. There's an underlying connection there between martial arts and Far Eastern type stuff. It did come from China about 2,500 years ago, if I read correctly.
Well, that's when the existing texts are from, and the existing
documented history.
Yeah, but it seems clear that there was things going on before that just the texts haven't survived. But the ones that still exist that are legible date from about 2,500 years ago.
And when did it really take hold in the West?
Well, let's see. It was always in Europe, from the time of Marco Polo, who went to the Far East. There's records of acupuncture in Europe in the 1600s. But it didn't really come to this country until, I think, the 1900s sometime. There was a bunch of Canadians French Canadians who learned about acupuncture in France and brought it back to Montreal. And then there was a community of New Yorkers who went up to Montreal to study with those acupuncturists and brought it back down to the States. And there's also been a big influx of Chinese people into this country through California and into New York.
It is kind of mysterious, and it's still taking grasp here in the West, in America especially. But people are coming to accept it, and as they learn more and get over those common fears, and we'll talk to Jay about that in just a bit, as she has started to experience treatments with acupuncture. Once people get over those fears, it really helps them. It really can make a difference in someone's life.
For the most part, yeah. It kind of takes up where a lot of Western medicine leaves off. So a lot of times the people that come to acupuncture are ones who have really reached a dead end elsewhere. So they show up because they have nothing to lose. But that's kind of perfect. The Chinese medicine and acupuncture strengths tend to be almost opposite of Western medicine strengths, so that things that your regular doctor can't even diagnose. They tell you there's nothing wrong with you, or they can't find anything. In Chinese medicine, it's some very clear thing.
Has the, I want to use the word technology, but I don't think that really is the right word. Has the basic format of acupuncture changed much over the thousands of years that it's been around?
Not really.
No?
The things that have changed are the materials, whereas 2,000 years ago they were using stone needles or bronze needles, and now
I can't picture that.
it's a little hard to fathom. Bones,
It sounds like
sometimes
something
they
you
use.
would see on the Flintstones.
Yeah, I've been to exhibits in museums where you can see some of the old ones. It doesn't
And
look
does your mouth
fun.
drop open? How could they do that?
Not quite,
No?
but you're not running and wishing that you were sitting there getting a treatment that way. But so now it's surgical stainless steel. The needles tend to be a little thinner.
Yeah, I understand, like a human hair, that thin?
Yeah, usually a little bit thicker, but that's kind of what we say, about the size of human hair. But the principles and the theories and the changed in 1,000 years or so. The text that you learn from when you go to acupuncture school are often compendiums of things that are hundreds and thousands of years old.
Okay. Jay Burton, tell us about your ailments and how you came to need some help.
A few years ago, I was spending quite a lot of time out in the woods. I'm not sure if this is how it happened or where, but supposedly I have Lyme disease, and I've had it for a few years.
And for people not familiar with Lyme disease, what is Lyme disease in a nutshell?
Gail, would you tell Jerry about
you-
that?
Hi. Lyme disease is a bacterial illness that is spread by a little bacteria called a spirochete that is carried in other animals, sometimes in ticks, sometimes in mice. And that bacteria gets into your bloodstream and multiplies, and for some people take antibiotics for 2 weeks and are fine. Other people get really, really sick, can be sick for years, can be almost bedridden, can almost die. So there's a wide range, but it's not fun, and it's darn hard to get rid of.
And knowing you, Jay, I know that your life has not been fun for a number of years
Right.
now.
Spending a lot of time around horses, having kitties sleep on my bed, my dog, being out in the woods, cutting down trees, hiking, picking
Somewhere
up
along
flowers,
the way, you picked this up.
being bitten by a bat, maybe, whatever. I just know one day, after being out in the woods for several days, I just couldn't move. My joints were so stiff, and my muscles were very, very sore and painful, and from then on, started going to doctors. After a couple of weeks, it just wasn't getting any better. And
And what did they initially tell you?
I had fibromyalgia. That's what I was diagnosed with. So for quite a while, I was getting rest that I needed, exercising, walking, doing everything that I could do to help my fibromyalgia.
And you were taking numerous medicines as
I
well.
was taking pain medicines and supplements, vitamins, supplements,
And pretty much the usual mainstream
anti-inflammatories.
remedies for
Right.
this type of illness.
Right.
When did you get to the point? When did you get frustrated enough to decide that you needed to take some kind of alternative route?
Well, the doctor took a $200 blood test. It didn't really determine whether I had Lyme disease or not, but there were some very interesting peaks near the positive. One symptom of Lyme disease is when you start the treatment, which are several antibiotics daily, and supplements and whatever you can get down, your symptoms will increase and get more severe, which they definitely did. And for 9 months, I was taking these medicines, several different antibiotics, several times a day. It was very hard to eat.
And any results?
Kept me very sick. Actually, there was one bacteria that I had symptoms of, which was vertigo a lot and the hot sweats. And with one of the antibiotics, that actually did get rid of those symptoms.
Okay. But as a whole, it just
No.
seemed pointless. You weren't going anywhere.
I couldn't. I had to stop taking all of these medicines that actually affected my liver, and I got sick from that as well. And I spent a lot of time just sitting on the couch watching TV.
And probably a lot of money as well.
Right, not eating. It was very hard for me to eat for several months and take these medicines. So I was glad.
So
I had
then
to stop.
you got to a point where you wanted to try something else, and you tried acupuncture. What did you know about acupuncture beforehand?
I knew that it could help various problems in your body. I knew it was good for energy, and that is something that has definitely improved and increased in my life as I have energy again, whereas before I just had no energy at all.
Did you have any initial questions, initial fears about trying this? Or were you to the point that you just wanted to try anything?
I was ready to just try anything. The needles, the idea of needles, sometimes 20 at a time, didn't bother me. And sometimes they just slip right in and you're not even aware of it. You'll be talking to your practitioner who just kind of slips them in and different locations, the ears, the arms, the knees, the feet.
I was not aware of that you use them in the ears.
Oh, yes. You can accomplish a lot with those little needles in your ears.
Well, they don't go into your ear canal. They go into the cartilage around the outside.
Okay. So how long have you been trying acupuncture, and what are the results? You said you have more energy.
Several weeks now, I think.
What other things have you benefited? Has the pain decreased any?
My overall body pain, yes, has decreased. My arms, and hands were pretty bad. My back, everything seemed to decrease. The energy seemed to increase. My nausea has finally, I've had some really rough nausea. And sleeping too, I think has been better for me since I started acupuncture. But definitely the energy.
Well, that's great.
Yes, it has been wonderful.
Gail, is this a typical type case of somebody that they try the mainstream route to try to alleviate pain or whatever their problem is, and they get frustrated and they try an alternative like acupuncture?
Yeah, I would say that's how most people get to acupuncture, is whatever else they've tried hasn't worked. But I always am sure to explain to people that acupuncture works a little differently than they might expect from their history of Western medicine. If you go to a doctor and you get medicine, you expect that when you take that medicine, you're going to feel better the next day, and that's how you know it's working. Right. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. With Chinese medicine and acupuncture, it doesn't really work that way. Some things might be better, some things might be a little worse. It might take a few weeks before you're better. It might, there's just a whole gamut. So the path of healing is very different.
And I would imagine it's on an individual basis. Everybody reacts to it differently.
Everybody reacts to it differently, and everybody's body is different. You can have 10 people walk in the door with a diagnosis of Lyme disease, but they're all going to get different treatments because it's different for each of them.
I know Jay mentioned that it helped with her sleep. It's helped with a number of different things. It's given her energy. I mean, I'm just looking at a list of things that acupuncture can help, and everything from chronic fatigue to diarrhea to depression, impotence, anemia, hypertension. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah, that's because Chinese medicine is really a holistic system. So,
and you might want to explain that. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have heard about holistic healing, holistic medicine, and they're wondering, is this some kind of new age thing? I mean, well, what is this all about?
Yeah, it's a really different mindset than we're used to in this culture. If you go to the doctor here, you might have a general practitioner, but as soon as something's wrong, you go to a specialist. It's a stomach doctor, it's a lung doctor, it's a ear, nose, and throat, it's a rheumatologist, it's a hematologist. They're all broken up into different things. In the Chinese medical point of view, your body is one system, and the methods of diagnosis and treatment look at your body as a whole system. So if you're having pain, for instance, in your knees, it's not just, oh, there's something wrong with your knees, or even just something wrong with your joints.
Right.
It's you have a systemic issue that's manifesting here, so that there's ways of treating. For instance, I might be thinking about your digestion if I'm working on your knees, or I might be thinking about your liver. Or so I mean, the theories tend to be pretty complex, but the idea is that your body functions as a whole ecosystem, and that you can't just isolate one little part. You have to look at the whole and treat the whole.
Now I'd heard, like, let's just use knees for an example. To heal your knee, you put the needles in another part of your body, like in your shoulder or something. I mean, these things are all different. I mean, they're connected, but you have to, like, put the pressure on a certain point of the body to heal a different part of the body.
Sometimes, yeah, and that goes back to the theories which show all kinds of ways that different parts of your body are connected to different other parts. So, for instance, you might have pain in your knees, but maybe your knees are so swollen and uncomfortable that it hurts too much to put a needle there. Or if you put needles there, it makes them hurt worse the next day. So in that case, you don't really want to be putting needles there, but there are other places you can put needles. And again, if you want to be treating the underlying condition that gives rise to it, it's not just your knees. It's your liver, it's your digestion, it's your anxiety. So all of those things are treated through different places.
Do you ever recommend, has it ever happened, or could you see it happening, if it hasn't already, using acupuncture in tandem with Western medicine?
Oh yeah, it happens all the time.
Okay.
It really depends on, some people will come to acupuncture just because they don't like doctors. And so I might be seeing somebody.
And what do you call yourself? If not a doctor?
Well,
do you have a doctor's degree?
I don't have a doctor's degree. It's an,
and I want to talk more about that in just a moment.
it's an acupuncturist license.
Okay.
So there might be, sometimes someone will come in and I'll say, gee, I wonder what's going on here. Perhaps you should go visit your cardiologist because I'm not sure what's going on with your heart. Or, yeah, definitely. They work in tandem pretty nicely together.
Okay. All right. What kind of training did you have when you decided you wanted to become an acupuncturist? What kind of routine do you go through to become one?
Well, there's a lot of acupuncture schools around the country now. When I was first looking at schools, there weren't that many, but they mostly are programs that run between 3 and 4 years after undergraduate. So now they're mostly master's level programs.
Are there same things that you would learn that a quote-unquote regular doctor would learn?
Not too much.
Okay.
You learn, there are requirements that you learn basic anatomy and physiology and, how to get an idea if someone's walking into your office with, chest pain and left arm pain and shortness of breath. You don't give them acupuncture, you take them to the emergency room. Like, there's things you have to learn. But for the most part, the ways of studying what's going wrong in a body and how to make it right is really quite different.
What is the reaction from the public been? I mean, how were they at first? How are they now after your many years?
That's a good question.
After your many years of doing this?
Well, when I was first going to acupuncture school, which was 1992, acupuncture was not very well known in this country, and I would tell people that I was going to acupuncture school, and they would literally take a jump back and say, ew, don't practice on me. It was really genuinely frightening. Like I had told them I was going to witch doctor school or something. It was really interesting. And then really...
It's been the exact opposite here at the studio. All the people behind the scenes have been hoping that you would just,
slide in a few.
Put as many needles as you could into me.
Yep. Well, we can try that. But it's really, things change.
I think I'm going to bolt for the door.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like that's been the reaction of a lot of people.
But
anyway.
that initially, but really, and then in the mid-90s, a lot of things changed. There was a lot of positive press about acupuncture, and people started to be a lot less scared of it, and now, people will seek me out at parties to ask me questions, and
And not just acupuncture. I think a lot of different alternative, maybe quote unquote new age type things, yoga and chiropractic. A lot of those different things people are going for now.
They are.
Is it partly maybe because of frustration with Western medicine?
A lot of it is frustration, but I think in a larger sense, it's that our culture and the medicine our culture has developed has some very wonderful strengths, but it also sort of is missing a whole aspect, which is how does your body relate to your mind? How does this holistic system work? Where's the spiritual part of healing and health? And Western medicine just it isn't capable at this point of working in those realms. The Eastern arts really developed from those realms, so they're much stronger.
Here's a question for you. If somebody was to want to try that treatment route, acupuncture, does normal insurance cover that? How does that work?
Usually not. There are a few insurance companies that will cover for particular conditions.
So in that aspect, that angle, it hasn't caught up.
It hasn't quite caught up. We're still hoping.
Jay, we've talked about you trying acupuncture. What were some of your questions when you decided? What were some of the things going on in your head?
Well, how bad does it hurt? That's the first thing you think about, needles going into your body. How will it help? How will it help me? And, will it help me? How long will it take to help me? As Gail said, everybody's different. They could have the same problem, but the time and their bodies are different.
So with Lyme disease, where were the needles put on you?
Well, for me, we started focusing on my liver when I first started because it was swollen from taking too many antibiotics and the nausea. So, up here, she would press on my body and it would hurt, and in my ears, my knees are probably the most painful part of my body right now with this Lyme disease. And so we take it easy in that area.
Okay.
Definitely.
Gail, any unusual cases come your way that maybe stump you, or maybe you have to put needles in really bizarre places?
They're all pretty much unusual. That's the beauty of it, is that there's no mechanics really involved, and everybody's so different. Some people I find more challenging than others, and it really, will send me back to my books or consulting with colleagues. Like, what do you think about this? And how, but I've seen people who run a gamut. Things like Lyme disease tend to be complicated and also really interesting. Sometimes little kids with epilepsy, that's pretty tricky.
How do you deal with children? I mean, if grown-ups are nervous about having needles, talk about children.
Yeah, well, it depends on the age of the kid, really, but when they're really little, they don't know to be afraid. And most of them don't really mind. Some kids who are really kind of frail will look a little startled when I put a needle in, and then they might cry for a second. But, you wave a little toy and they forget all about it.
I was going to ask you about setting. I mean, do you dim the lights? Do you have soft, music by Yanni in the background? I mean, what kind of setting? Or do you, as Jay kind of alluded to, talk while you're doing it to kind of distract?
Not to distract. I talk to people because it's interesting. People are interesting to talk to, and sometimes there's insights that we can come up with together through conversation. You don't need to be distracted, and some people prefer not to talk, and so then we won't talk. The room is generally, I need lights when I'm working, but they're not harsh. And once I'm done putting needles in, I will turn down the lights and people will rest that way for about 20 or 30 minutes and usually fall asleep. It's really calming.
Okay. And the needles are discarded afterwards.
Yes.
Talk about the safety issues involved with this.
Yeah, well, you know, at this point, it used to be in the olden days that people would sterilize the needles and reuse them. That hasn't been normal practice for probably 15 years. Everything's just disposed of when it's done, so there's no chance of infection.
And I would imagine you get people back for follow-ups, just like normal
Yeah,
doctors.
well,
and of course, if you're treating them for any period of time, you're going to see them anyway.
going to see them anyway, and it's usually a little bit, it's a more frequent model than you go to the doctor and then you might go back in 3 months. If I'm really treating someone who's ill, I might see them twice a week or certainly once a week until they're really getting better.
All right, ladies, we're quickly running out of time, but Jay, I wanted to have you get in a final word from you. You would recommend this, I would imagine?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Yes, I would.
What would you like to tell
definitely.
people that are maybe on the fence?
It's probably try it. You know, it can't hurt you. You know, try it out. It's helped, like I said, my energy and you know, with your practitioner really investigates and really does help you come up with, you know, different ways to help you and just telling you, you know, really sleep well and, you know, try to eat well. And I find these things are really important. Rest is really important.
Well, best
Just
of luck.
try it. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Hope that it continues to help you.
Thank you. Me
And,
too.
and speaking of help, Gail Rex, acupuncturist. The future of this practice, the future of medicine, as known as acupuncture.
Well, I'm sure that it's only going to get more and more popular in this country because it really fills a gap. And so who knows where the future will go, but it's going. It's here, you know.
And it involves needles, but people should not be afraid.
They should not be afraid. It is really so much less painful than
people think.
Yeah.
All right, great. Gail Rex, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jerry.
Keep up
It's
the
been
great
nice
work.
to be here.
Jay
Thanks.
Burton, again, thank you for joining us and informing us to your experiences, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thanks, Jerry.
That's INFOcus People and Places on acupuncture. I'm Jerry Germain. Until next time, take care.